Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mark Anthony's Music Picks. Today is episode number 127, and for today's episode, I'm coming back and revisiting a theme that I did last summer, which is my summertime dub techno-ish picks. For dub techno, I feel like it naturally tends to lend itself towards the coldest or colder seasons of the year. And I think a lot of that has to do with the laid back nature of it, that almost like the way that you feel in wintertime when it's winter and you feel like you're almost hibernating because you're locked inside all the time. There's just something about that and the tape hiss that's inherent in a lot of classic dub techno that makes wintertime and dub techno seem to go together. But I have so much dub techno and I love it so much that I'm not okay with going the entire other half, the warmer half of the year, without listening to it. And I've been listening actually to a lot of it just in this past month or so. And I wanted to come back and go through some of my most recent top 5, I guess, hot picks for dub techno that I've been listening to. These are scattered over actually, probably the last 10, 12 years or so. So these are not all recent picks, but I think some of them might be a little bit obscure or just some things that, dub techno fans may have overlooked. I know that I have a pretty decent dub techno following on my channel, and I don't like to let you guys go too long without a dub techno episode. If you guys ever strayed and unsubscribed, I feel like my world would just fall apart. So I'm kidding there, but I will do my best to scratch the dub techno itch for you guys. So I have 5 records for you today, and I hope you enjoy these picks. My first is an artist that I stumbled on during the pandemic, and they've been making music as a duo out of New Zealand since 2011. Somehow, some way, I overlooked them. I don't know how or why, but I'm glad that I stumbled onto them. My first discovery of them, like I said, was during the pandemic when I was listening to, I follow Mule Records, and I stumbled across Chaos in the CBD's release that was called Hydrate. And I can't remember if I reviewed it. I definitely put that track as one of the opening tracks in one of my video vinyl mixes, and I love that. It has the classic almost 90s ecstasy sample. And when I heard that and I realized the timeless nature of it, it caused me to start to look at Chaos in the CBD's other releases. Now, they have a label that's called In Dust We Trust that has a very consistent output. Chaos in the CBD is one of those artists that has the ability to make timeless music. And as I've gotten older, I really do try to avoid any kind of flash in the pan type releases because I just hate the feeling of buying a record and then not wanting it, weeks or months later, or having like some kind of novelty wear off. I would rather stick with like really tight, legit, timeless productions. Those to me are the most rewarding to listen to. Maybe they don't get you entirely on the first listen, but 3, 4, 5 listens in, you start to realize that, hey, there's a little bit of nuance in the mastering here, or this is something that I could play 10 or 20 years from now and people still might think it's new. And I think Chaos in the CBD really represents that type of sound well. They're like super classy producers. They tend to, I would say, if I had to put one genre label on them, I would say they center around house, probably on the softer side of house, but they also sometimes go tribal. And when they put really nice tribal rhythms into their tracks, to me, it's it's something like it's like just a little touch of Joe Claussell, just some really, really nice drums that they put in there. And they mix different genres. So yeah, some of the releases on In Dust We Trust, you could pigeonhole as just straight up kind of mushy, deep house. Every once in a while I'll bite on that, but I like the tougher tracks. And for my pick here, my favorite In Dust We Trust so far is this red one. I'm also a big fan of the green one that just came out. I think it's called Brainstorm. But I really enjoy this. This is a really nice, high-quality pressing. Absolutely no complaints with the sound quality or the sleeve or anything in regards to that. My choice on here is Coral Castle, and the reason that I'm including a arguably a house record in this dub techno episode is that because this actually does have tinges of dub techno, and I just thought it was wonderful the way that they brought the tribal house, the deep house. There's even like a really slick, well thought out, almost like tech house type vocal that that you might expect to hear in a tech house track, all fused with the underlying dub techno elements. And I just thought this was a really wonderful, almost under the radar masterpiece. And here's a recent acquisition that I just picked up. And, every once in a while, my friend Matt Salcido says that, the items I want list, or, your want list is where items that you actually wanted end up going to die. And for the most part, that is true. When you put something in your want list and, you can end up sitting and waiting on it for 4, 5, 6 years, waiting for a cheap copy to come up. And sometimes it never does. And in that regard, your want list can be a graveyard for tracks that you aspired to own one day. But every once in a while, especially during a recession, this is we're heading into a recession here in the United States. People start to sell, and they start to sell for reasonable prices. Like, instead of everything being $25, $30, $40 and everybody trying to get the max value for every vinyl, sometimes you get sellers that come into the market and they want to actually unload something. Like, they're really, truly motivated sellers. They're not just listing items that, like, I'll sell it if I can get this crazy ass price for it. They're interested in moving it out the door. And I was able, by this means, to come onto a record that I've wanted for a long time. Ever since it came out, I like this. This was the second record in the Dub Chronicles series. I don't know who's behind the Dub Chronicles series. I'm sure somebody on my channel probably knows. So if you know who the label boss is, or who these producer or producers are, please comment down below. I don't know, I probably spent 2 minutes trying to figure it out and then I gave up. But there's 5 records in the Dub Chronicles series. For some reason, Dub Chronicles number 5 was skipped and they went from 4 to 6. I don't know what the deal is with that. I think they're all potentially worth adding into your want list. My choice on Dub Chronicles 2 is the A side. It's a subtle, somewhat minimalistic track, maybe bordering on a DJ tool. It's club-related dub techno, and my favorite moment in this track is when the like groaning, growling bass line is introduced a couple minutes in. There's just something really satisfying about that, and there are clubby, techno-y elements like the hi-hat that hits off center with the bass, and I just think it all comes together nicely. This is like a nice, functional, highly functional 7 or 8 minute, maybe like opening, or as you're starting to exit the opening portion of your set and you want to start to get a little bit more down and dirty. Dub Chronicles 2 A side, I think this really brings it. back in 2002, Thor released arguably his most famous or popular techno track. It's like a dark warehouse techno track called Aliens Don't Boogie. I love the title. It's just, who knows what's behind that? I guess Thor knows what's behind that title, but I always thought that was kind of like an eye-catching, like, man, like it spawned some curiosity. Like I want to hear what a track that's about aliens not boogieing. I want to know what that's all about. But that is like has a cult following. My Discogs acquaintance Occidental absolutely loves Aliens Don't Boogie. He said that it was one of his favorite tracks ever. And Sushi Tech re-released that 2002 original release in 2015 on a Thor compilation called Consequences, which is a phenomenal compilation. If you want like a really nice triple pack, Sushi Tech always brings value, like low prices, really nice sleeves, high quality pressings. I highly recommend that. Thule Records came back and did an Aliens Don't Boogie remix series about, how long's it been? 6, 7, 8 months ago now. And I bought this, and I have to admit, every once in a while I buy a record and it mistakenly gets moved to like the back of my shelf, and I totally forgot that I had the Aliens Don't Boogie remix pack. But there's an all-star cast on here. Andrei Pushkarev, Octal Industries brought some heat on here. My pick is the Wage remix, and I actually reached out to Christian to ask him how to pronounce Waage, and he replied back to me, and he said that it's wur, like W-U-R, if you had to spell it phonetically. So that kind of surprised me. So if you've been pronouncing it wage all of this time, you're probably wrong. I'm going to go with Christian and say that he knows how to pronounce his last name better than anybody else. But wur really brought a really, really nice remix here. I love the giant synth stabs that just echo and reverb cavernously. And this is something that out of Wage's catalog, I was absolutely stunned by the first release that he did. I think that was his best. The second one had 1 or 2 tracks that sort of had like ties back to the first in terms of quality. And then since then, this Wage or wur remix on the B side here, it has been my favorite. A year or two ago, the label Freund der Family, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, released a double pack 10-inch called Growl, G-R-A-U. And it was 10-inch, 45 RPM, and it had some really interesting dub techno that I thought actually bordered on, different types of genre descriptions, maybe like abstract or experimental. To my liking, I saw that the Growl series was re-released just this past winter with a part 2, and they kept with the experimental dub techno hybrid theme. And I can't think of too many places that you can go and get that type of sound where the dub techno is being pushed outside of its normal boundaries. There's a lot of labels and a lot of artists that are doing classic and traditional dub techno, and I know that that's always going to have its place, and it can have that hypnotic effect that a lot of dub techno fans are going for. But if you get bored with that, if you don't want down the middle dub techno, or if you feel like you own enough of it and you want to just go outside of that traditional realm, the Growl series is the place to do it. There is a track on this. There's 4 tracks altogether. My favorite on here is Limbic. You do get some of the traditional tape hiss, and you get an absolutely killer bass line. One of the little details that I notice about the bass line is that the bass line itself, and maybe even the kick drum, I'm not sure, it either has like a very slow attack or it's slightly syncopated. It just seems like it hits a fraction of a second late, and I love that pulsing feeling that slight, just that tiny bit of lag tends to create in the track. Like I said, if you really just want to just get out of the norm, avoid the vanilla dub techno, the Growl series, part 1 and part 2 are definitely worth checking out here. And bringing this episode home, man, maybe once or twice a year if I'm lucky, I will listen to a new track and have it absolutely knock me on my butt. Like, you just get absolutely leveled by a track that you didn't see coming. You know, you're going through sampling, you know, just out of curiosity. You're not expecting anything. You click play on something that you found on Juno or Dex, whatever, and it just hits your ear perfectly. Now, a lot of times when that happens, I have to check my mood. I'm like, all right, did I just have a really great day today? Is everything that I'm listening to sounding good, and therefore this just is above average and sounding good, or is this an absolute monster? And it turns out that this release really is as good as I thought it was when I first listened to it. I mean, when I sampled this, I fell in love with it immediately. I went and listened to it on YouTube and just hammered it for an entire night because I just couldn't get over how perfect of a groove it is. This is like the essential Mark Anthony dub techno related techno track. This is Advanced Dreams, and it's on the label Mini Mood, which is a very sophisticated, high-class label that a lot of dub techno fans, I'm sure you guys all have some Mini Moods in your collection here. Advanced Dreams is a duo of producers from Moscow, and they, I think, are sort of in cult fashion loved by their fans for their 2014 album called Island of Memory, which might be getting a vinyl. I heard through the grapevine that it might be getting a vinyl. Still waiting to hear back on that. I would love to see that on vinyl, so maybe one day. In 2014, that album came out, kind of got them on people's radar. People noticed them. In 2015, they released a track called Blurred Trip, which I haven't even had the chance to listen to. I only stumbled onto it because I'm subscribed to Mini Mood on Juno, and as soon as this came out, I just, was stumbling through and I listened to it. But ultimate, super deep bass line here. It sounds like a haunted submarine just sort of lurking through the depths like a shark waiting to attack something. A little bit of tribal percussion and just that deep groaning noise like you're 2,000 feet under the sea. I cannot get enough of this track. I posted this in the Discogs Dub Techno forum, and I noticed that a lot of people agreed with me. Seagator said that it's probably one of the best records of the year, and I actually agree with him. I don't take that statement lightly. This track is an absolute monster. If you love deep, dark techno, if you love dub techno, this all converges right in that sweet spot, and what a masterpiece. right, this concludes my summertime dub techno-ish picks. Feel free to comment down below if you have any other recommendations or if you got enjoyment out of listening to these tracks. I hope that you discovered something new today. That's all for now, and take care, everyone.